As of today, this house belongs to us, and anyone who isn't family has no right to stay here. That was the shocking declaration made by Eric's relatives when they came to visit. Just a few days after Eric passed away, 7 of them suddenly showed up at my home, claiming it was now theirs. I could only laugh at their attitude. They didn't understand anything. Looking at me with suspicion, they demanded an explanation. "You don't know. This house already belongs to me," I challenged them and revealed the will that Eric had left me. Hearing that, they were stunned, their faces turning pale. My name is Claire Brooks, 50 years old, and I work at a flower shop in our small town. My family has been tied to this land for generations, but now I will be the only one to protect it. "Claire, can you work overtime today?" "No, manager, I already told you I can't." "I understand. You can go home on time. We'll manage. Best of luck with everything going on at home." Our flower shop is a favorite spot in town, known for fresh bouquets and excellent service. Every day, customers come and go, but I've grown accustomed to the job. Still, ever since my husband, Eric, was diagnosed with cancer and hospitalized, I've made every effort to leave work on time. He was 3 years older than me, and we had been married for 28 years. But this time, his illness forced me to rearrange everything. The cancer had spread throughout his body, and he deteriorated rapidly after the diagnosis. "I can't believe it. Working from home all day has made me so weak," he said, his tired eyes gazing out the window. Eric used to be a freelance interior designer, able to work from home with just a laptop. He always helped me keep the house tidy, giving me time to work and go out. But once he became ill, I asked to adjust my work hours and started coming in earlier so I could leave in time to care for him. I wanted to take care of him as much as possible and had asked everyone around me for support in doing so. "Sorry to trouble you all," I often told my coworkers. "Don't worry, everything will be fine. We'll take care of things," they said with smiles and teasing. When I asked to leave early, no one objected. They even encouraged me to take more time off to look after Eric. The manager was very understanding and arranged the schedule accordingly. I felt deeply grateful to work in a place like that, and once things settled down, I was determined to repay their kindness. With that in mind, I happily finished my shift and hurried to the hospital. "Ah, you must be Mrs. Lensher? The doctor just arrived and is speaking with your husband." When I arrived, a nurse recognized me and greeted me warmly. I rushed to Eric's room and opened the door. He was talking to the doctor, trying to smile, though it was weak, as if he were trying to pretend everything was still normal. "Your wife is here," the doctor said as I entered. "You're done with work?" "Thank you for all your effort," Eric said, his voice frail. His eyes were tired but still carried a flicker of hope. But I knew he was in terrible pain. Eric had once been full of energy, his face youthful and full of life. But now the illness had changed everything. His face was thin and lifeless, and even smiling took tremendous effort. "I'm not going to let this disease beat me," he said, trying to force a smile that wouldn't come. I could feel his despair in every word. The doctor began explaining Eric's condition. "I've just gone over the details with your husband." "How is he doing, doctor?" I asked. "Let me take it from here." Just as I was about to ask more questions, Bradley suddenly interrupted. At that moment, an ominous feeling passed over me. The doctor must have sensed something too, because he quietly nodded and left the room. "My love, how long have we been together?" Eric suddenly asked, his voice low, as if lost in thought. 28 years, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady, though worry weighed heavily on me. 28 years. So long, yet it feels like the blink of an eye. he whispered. Stop. It sounds like you're saying your final goodbyes. Maybe there's only half a year left, Eric whispered as if reflecting. His words felt like an acceptance of the end, and I hurried to stop him. But he continued, avoiding my gaze. If I can just hold on for another 6 months? Actually, maybe even less. I know my body better than anyone. Eric gave a faint smile, eyes downcast. Hearing those words, my worst fear felt like it was coming true, and tears began to fall. I looked into his eyes, and it felt like I was already witnessing a farewell. I'm sorry for making you sad. I promised when we got married that I would never make you cry. Noticing my tears, Eric gave a strained smile and gently wiped them away. His own eyes filled with tears too, and seeing that only made me cry harder. My voice trembled and I couldn't stop the sobbing. I'll have to apologize to your parents when I see them. I'm truly sorry for making their daughter suffer so much. Stop it. Hearing him say that made my deepest fear feel more real. A profound loneliness surged within me, and I couldn't stop crying. He held me tightly, but the ache in my heart wouldn't go away. Don't say that. Don't talk like it's all over, I pleaded. We'll try everything, Eric. You can't give up like this, I cried out, but he only gently comforted me. Claire, I can feel the end is near. Things don't always go the way we want. As I screamed, unwilling to accept reality, he gently embraced me. He took my hand and quietly continued. I'm about to leave this world. No, I hate that thought so much. Before he left, he wanted to do all the things he had never gotten around to. He wanted to cherish every moment with me until the very end. Then Eric started talking about his plans for the days ahead. I don't want to spend the rest of my time in the hospital. I want to go home with you. Claire, I know you're busy with work, but could you take a few days off? I want us to take that trip we had planned before. I want to fulfill every wish of yours, so, please. Hearing his words and seeing the look on his face, it felt like a sharp blade cutting through my heart. The pain was beyond words, because I knew this was no longer a fragile dream, but a cruel reality. I nodded, tears blurring my vision, and gently relayed Eric's request to the doctor. Fortunately, the doctor respected our decision and quickly arranged the discharge process. To ensure safety, a few additional tests were conducted, and Eric was discharged the following day. So Eric spent his final days outside that hospital. Eric, I came to visit. Hey, how are you feeling? Ready to cross over to the other side? Just kidding? Oh, Claire's here too? I thought it'd just be Eric. Since there was still some time before dinner, I decided to stay with him as long as I could. Suddenly, Eric's mother, his older brother Martinez, and Martinez's wife, Rihanna, came to visit. Long time no see, Martinez. Martinez, now 55, had worked in construction, but frequently quit his jobs, living aimlessly without direction. At his age, he was merely drifting through each day. Rihanna, his wife, 34, had a striking appearance, but always seemed cold and harsh. Her domineering attitude was unlike how she treated others and had always caught my attention. My mother-in-law, now 74, was still sprightly, but greed was written all over her face. She openly favored Marcus and had never shown Eric any real affection. To her, Eric was just a money tree. Martinez often made crude jokes, and it was clear Rihanna didn't like me. From our first meeting, she treated me like an enemy, never missing a chance to mock me. My mother-in-law never treated us like family and always made us uncomfortable. She never saw Eric as her son, just a walking ATM. As soon as she saw us, she brought up money. Martinez has so many kids, While you two don't have any and both work, surely you have plenty saved up. Can't you help out a little? Words like that had become so familiar they were just exhausting. Martinez's family had 9 members, including his mother. After his first wife left, he remarried while already having 4 kids. He married Rihanna and had 2 more. With limited finances and too many mouths to feed, they couldn't rely on their own income. Instead, they constantly leaned on us. Financial support again? Why are there so many people? I tried to stay calm. What kind of attitude is that? Treating your own mother coldly. Don't you feel bad? Eric, you should care more about your mother. She's been so lonely since your father passed. In truth, when Eric's father was alive, things were never this bad. His father was strict and rational, and she never behaved this way. Back then, the family was united and lived peacefully. But ever since he died, she seemed to shed all pretense, revealing bottomless greed. Eric's father used to urge her to treat us well. With no one to stop her now, she had become more unpredictable than ever. She wouldn't stop bringing up money with Eric. Martinez had once been disowned by his father after leaving home with another woman. But after the father passed, he returned with Rihanna and all the children. In this small town, though there's some support for raising children, 6 kids are still a huge burden. Eric was always frustrated by their lack of realism. This month's been tough again. Could you help us out a bit? What? Please stop. Can't you see how much Eric is already suffering? What are you people thinking? Shut up. This is a family matter. Exactly. Unable to contain my outrage at their absurdity, I shouted in anger. But Martinez just waved me off while Rihanna smirked mockingly. Sorry, but we really can't give you any more money. Ugh, how annoying. We came all the way here thinking you could manage something. Shh, what a useless son, my mother-in-law muttered. I was almost at my limit with how unreasonable these people were. So what's the situation exactly? How far along is the cancer, and when's the discharge date? Her eyes no longer held concern, only calculation. She didn't care about Eric. All she saw was what she could take. He only has about 6 months left to live. He's being discharged tomorrow to spend his remaining days at home. I see. I noticed the light in their eyes, bright not with shock or sadness, but opportunity. Their expressions showed a twisted satisfaction, which made my skin crawl and left me cold to the bone. That condescending attitude makes me sick. We'll drive over to pick him up tomorrow. He can't possibly walk home by himself. There's no need, Eric replied calmly, but his mother and the others continued to chatter cheerfully, full of smug satisfaction. Unable to endure it any longer, I stepped forward and spoke sharply. Get out! This hospital room welcomes no one but me and Eric. What do you think you're doing? Please just go. I'll handle the discharge myself. From now on, don't ever show your faces to us again. What did you just say? As they moved closer to argue, I slammed the door shut, locked it, and immediately informed the hospital reception to restrict visits from Eric's family. It was something I had to do to protect him. I wanted to make sure his family couldn't reach him. Claire, I'm sorry. I've made you worry again. I turned around to see Eric looking at me with apologetic eyes, his voice like a scratch across my heart. Why didn't you speak up? They're treating you like you're not even human. My voice cracked as I blamed him. A choking sorrow gripped my chest. Why did someone as kind as him have to go through this? Why him? I still loved Eric deeply. That love made the pain of watching him weaken each day even more excruciating. I felt helpless, like I was witnessing a candle slowly burn out without being able to shield it. I didn't want to cause more trouble. So I'm grateful you spoke up for me, Claire. Which is why I have something to ask you. Something? His eyes grew so serious that I felt a chill run down my spine. Eric was not someone who easily asked for help, but now he looked at me steadily and enunciated each word. This is the first and the last time I'll ask you for something. I promise. Just tell me. He then handed me a sealed envelope. Something so special, so important. My hands trembled as I took it. I went home with a heavy heart, unable to describe the weight of what I was carrying. The next morning, I went to the flower shop, explained the situation to the manager, and requested an extended leave. I'd worked there for nearly 10 years, a small shop but famous for its meticulous arrangements, always filled with a gentle fragrance. I was usually the first to arrive, sweeping up fallen petals, arranging wedding bouquets. Before Eric's family could interfere, I completed all the discharge procedures. But to prevent any mishaps, I moved us both to a small villa in the suburbs, a place a close friend had kindly offered. It's sad to leave our home, but as long as you're with me, anywhere is home, Eric said with a smile that made me blush, even though my heart was still heavy. During the last 6 months of his life, we lived quietly and peacefully. I was with him completely, every second. With help from our friends, Bradley spent his final days in peace. Then he passed, gently, peacefully. At the funeral, I saw his family again for the first time in months. I braced myself, expecting glares of hatred, but instead, I was met with cold, smirking smiles. I shuddered. The moment I saw those smug smiles, a chill ran down my spine. What do they mean by that? I wondered. It didn't take long before I found out what was behind those smiles. Soon after, the doorbell rang. I had just finished packing up Eric's final belongings when I saw my mother-in-law and Marcus standing at the door, arms full of bags. So we finally found you. The neighbors said you came back. What are those bags for? I asked, as she tried to enter with an annoyed expression. I stood firmly in the doorway, blocking them. Marcus frowned, looking at me with irritation. Move. Don't start this again. I won't move. Did you bring the kids too? This is my house. Looking past his shoulder, I saw the rest of them, a whole group standing there, faces full of self-satisfaction. It was a plan long in the making, a chaotic situation, but if I panicked, I'd fall right into their trap. I held my ground and faced them head on. Then my mother-in-law let out a mocking laugh and said something that stunned me. Starting today, this house belongs to us. You have to leave. I was speechless. My in-laws, all 9 of them, had brazenly plotted to take over the house for themselves. Faced with such audacity, at first I could only stand there in shocked silence. My son's property naturally belongs to his blood family. He left a will for us, she said, smiling as she presented a document. But as soon as I heard that, I couldn't help but laugh, a loud, almost hysterical laugh at the absurdity of it all. What's so funny? My reaction clearly irritated them. Rihanna peeked from behind Marcus and glared at me. Wiping my tears from laughing, I looked directly at their furious faces and dropped a bombshell. Didn't you know? Actually, this house is already in my name. What? My mother-in-law exclaimed. What did you say? Marcus echoed. My words left them frozen, confused about what was going on. Their dumbfounded expressions made me laugh again. Composing myself, I went into the room and brought out some important documents to deliver an even bigger surprise. This house was transferred to my name before he passed away. There's a signature. It's notarized. This is my house, and none of you have any right to it. Shock was plain on their faces. I looked each of them straight in the eyes, unflinching. This time, I was the one who wouldn't let anyone cross that threshold ever again. "What are you saying?" my mother-in-law screamed, her eyes wide with shock. She quickly snatched the documents from my hands and examined them closely with Martinez. "It's true. The name has been transferred to her," they muttered in disbelief. The documents were official, legal, and clearly stated that the ownership now belonged to me. When the truth became undeniable, Martinez and Rihanna began to loudly protest. "What are you talking about? Why isn't the house under Eric's name anymore?" Unaffected by their shouting, I calmly explained. "He wanted to transfer ownership to me before he was discharged from the hospital. He thought it made more sense to do it while he was still alive." At that point, my mother-in-law interrupted, pulling out a will from Eric that she had brought with her. "This can't be. Look here. This is the will he wrote." The document she handed over was indeed in Eric's handwriting, but it lacked any official seal or signature. It was merely a handwritten note, completely invalid in legal terms, something they clearly didn't understand. Their ignorance only made me sigh in frustration. Still, I knew that no matter how much I explained, they would not easily accept the truth. Anticipating what might happen next, I asked them to wait a moment and immediately called my lawyer for legal support. "I'm really grateful for your help. Sorry to trouble you, but his family just came to discuss the will. Can you come over urgently? Thank you." Martinez looked at me suspiciously as I suddenly made the call. "Who are you calling?" I didn't explain in detail, just told him to come into the house. I led my mother-in-law and Martinez into the living room and told the kids they could play freely in the bedroom. After all, they were too young to understand the adult conversation. Sometime later, the doorbell rang. I went to open it and welcomed the guest I had just called. I led the man into the living room. "Sorry to keep everyone waiting," said the man in a suit holding a leather briefcase. Martinez and the others immediately became more cautious, their expressions growing more hostile. "Sorry for the inconvenience. This is Mr. Paul, the lawyer who has been supporting us with matters related to Eric." "A lawyer?" My mother-in-law gasped in shock upon learning Paul's identity. I was introduced to Paul by a friend of the florist we used to hire. I had already informed him about the entire situation in advance. Despite being only 30 years old, which initially made Eric and me a bit hesitant, Paul was well known among his peers for his sharpness and expertise, especially in handling family disputes. After meeting him in person, we fully trusted him and officially hired him as our legal representative. Eric's family had no idea that he had hired a lawyer. They looked utterly stunned, as if struck by a sudden blow. Marcus and the others widened their eyes in silence. "Allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm Paul. I'm here at Eric's request. I will be recording this conversation for legal purposes." Unlike Marcus, who dressed flamboyantly, Paul had a simple and neat appearance. Short black hair, clear framed glasses, and a clean-cut look. My mother-in-law seemed to forget her original reason for coming, overwhelmed by Paul's composed and professional demeanor. Paul politely offered his business card, prompting them to reflexively reach out and accept it. The moment my mother-in-law saw the official attorney license, her posture straightened and her face turned noticeably more cautious. Martinez and Rihanna were no different. They all tensed up. Paul and I sat down on the sofa across from Eric's family to begin the conversation clearly and orderly. With practiced ease, Paul turned on the recorder and began. "I'd like to take a look at the will you brought," Paul said calmly. Perhaps intimidated by his professionalism, My mother-in-law's hand trembled slightly as she handed over the document. She seemed afraid that without someone to defend her interests, inheriting anything would be a distant dream. A seasoned lawyer like Paul could easily point out any flaw in the document. Paul skimmed through the will, his eyes sharp yet calm. After reading, he gave me a slight nod. "Thank you. I'll return this to you now," he said with a faint smile, handing the document back to my mother-in-law. His calm demeanor only made her more uneasy. "Is that really Eric's will?" she asked, her voice tinged with urgency. "Yes, it is Eric's handwriting. See, that means this house belongs to us," she suddenly declared with confidence. "But," Paul paused, his tone steady, "this is the old will." "What did you just say?" My mother-in-law shot up, stunned. "It seems you didn't notice the date. While it is indeed Eric's handwriting, this will was replaced by a newer one," Paul said as he pulled out a folder from his briefcase. The new will was clearly formatted, complete with fingerprints, a recent date, and proper legal authorization. Its contents stated, "I leave all my assets to Claire. The previous will I wrote for my mother is hereby revoked. This document is my final legal will." "What? Let me see that." Rita snatched the will, her eyes scanning the lines rapidly. The new will had a more recent date, an official seal, a fingerprint, and clearly stated that legal authority had been granted to the lawyer, making its legitimacy undeniable. Rihanna and Martinez turned pale. My mother-in-law trembled, her lips moving wordlessly. "So, does the old will still hold any legal power?" they asked, their voices nearly pleading. "I'm sorry, but it's nothing more than a worthless piece of paper," Paul replied firmly. "No way." Martinez immediately turned to his mother in rage. "You said the entire estate would be yours," he shouted as if his world had just collapsed. Martinez exploded in fury, his shouting turning the whole atmosphere into chaos. Rihanna tried to hold him back, but was helpless against his burning aggression. He kept yelling, cursing at his own mother. My mother-in-law shrank back under the weight of her son's wrath, and the room was thrown into turmoil. I gently clasped my hands on my knees, trying to remain calm, and said, "Please stop causing a scene in my house. The children are still here." "What did you just say?" Martinez snapped, glaring at me. "If you continue this behavior, Russell will record everything, and we won't hesitate to file charges." The mere mention of lawsuit and the name Paul was enough to make Martinez back down immediately. He slowly sat down on the sofa, his face still flushed with anger. No matter how much Martinez, clueless about the law, tried to resist, he was outmatched by a lawyer and had no choice but to nervously stay seated. I turned to my mother-in-law, my voice softer but still firm. "You once said Eric wrote the old will by hand while he was in the hospital, correct?" She had previously insisted that Eric wrote the will voluntarily during his hospital stay, and now I waited for her to elaborate. "Yes, he wrote it himself by hand, and no one forced him," she replied, her irritation clearly visible. "Was he happy while writing it?" I asked, unable to hide the lump forming in my throat. In my mind, I could still picture Eric lying in his hospital bed, his face pale from chemotherapy. He was the one who used to stand among the flower beds with me, carefully arranging small bouquets for delivery. Now, thinking about how he had been forced to write a will while battling illness made my heart tighten. Pain, helplessness, and regret wrapped around me like thorns. Rihanna grew impatient and interjected, "You're interrogating her now? What do you want from us?" I glanced at Russell and gave a small signal. He adjusted his glasses and nodded. Everything was ready. I was about to reveal a crucial truth to the family. The story is quite something, but something doesn't add up. In fact, the hospital's surveillance cameras captured her forcing Eric to write the will. As I spoke, I took out my laptop and inserted the USB. Paul had once spoken to Eric. In a moment of vulnerability, Eric confessed that he didn't want to sign the will, but was pressured into it. We reported the situation to the hospital, and they provided the surveillance footage. The screen displayed the hospital room. "We'll be in trouble if you die and leave nothing behind," my mother-in-law said harshly in the video. In the footage, she was clearly pressuring Eric to write the will, with both Martinez and Rihanna present and involved. "If you don't want something bad to happen to Claire, then sign the will," Martinez threatened. And Rihanna, "Just sign it, please. Nothing will happen, I promise." The video was recorded 3 days before Eric was discharged. The room fell completely silent. Martinez turned ghostly pale. No, that's not how it was. It was just a joke. We didn't think it would be taken seriously." Rihanna tried to defend herself hastily. "Really? I once watched a movie where the villain was super cool. I was just imitating that character. I didn't mean any real harm. Please forgive us." I didn't respond. The weight of disappointment crushed my chest. Eric, my gentle, patient husband, the one who had quietly worried about my future, had been driven into utter vulnerability by the very people he trusted. If you had admitted the truth from the start, there might have been room for leniency, but clearly you've tried to cover it all up. Paul, with this evidence, can we press charges for coercion? I asked, my voice dry and hollow. Absolutely. This meets the criteria for coercion, Paul confirmed, smiling as he picked up the recorder. The evidence is more than enough, Paul said again, flashing a broader smile as he lifted the recording device. Martinez, Rihanna, and my mother-in-law were all stunned when they realized the entire conversation had been recorded. We'll proceed with a lawsuit against all of you. That includes a claim for damages, Paul declared clearly. No way. Wait, Claire. It was just Mom who pressured him. I was just watching. Rihanna panicked and tried to escape blame. Immediately, a heated argument erupted among the three of them. They scrambled to blame one another, exposing every dark detail of their well-planned scheme. You two were the ones who urged Mom. You said it had to be done before Claire got back. No, Mom was the one who insisted we do it early. It seemed they had pushed forward with this plan when I wasn't around. Rihanna continued to spill more, but in the heat of the argument, she seemed unaware of just how serious her own words sounded. The shouting became so intense I wanted to cover my ears. Amid the chaos, I went still. Meanwhile, the children inside the house stood silently, watching with wide, confused eyes. My 2-year-old niece reached up and held my hand, looking up at me as if to ask, "What's happening, Aunt Claire?" I knelt down and hugged her, whispering, "It's okay. I'll be fine." I knew very well the children were not at fault in this, so I quickly called the oldest, who was in 5th grade, and asked her to take the younger ones to another room so they wouldn't have to witness this ugly scene between adults. Even though she didn't fully understand what was going on, she obeyed, leading her brother and sister away. Once the children were out of sight, I took a deep breath to steady myself and looked straight at the 3 adults standing before me. "Aren't you ashamed of yourselves? What kind of parents are you?" "What are you talking about?" someone mumbled weakly. "You deny responsibility and then turn around and blame each other in front of the children. Don't you feel humiliated? All you care about is finding a way to escape the consequences." Rihanna looked shaken, her eyes darting around the room like she was looking for a place to hide. At last, she lowered her head and said, I'm truly sorry. I admit everything, not just the threats. Please, forgive us. Martinez and his mother quickly followed, apologizing desperately, their voices pleading, eyes full of desperation, clinging to the last sliver of hope. We still have children to raise. Please help us financially. I don't know how we'll manage if we're sued for damages. Please, let this go. If someone has to take the blame, let it be me. They wept as they begged for forgiveness. But inside, I felt nothing but coldness and bitterness. In the end, what you really care about is— I choked on my words for a moment before continuing, my voice sharp as a blade. Money. You only care about yourselves and your money. I don't feel any genuine remorse from any of you. No, it's not like that. It's just, we're struggling financially, and we wanted you to understand our situation. I looked Marcus straight in the eyes. Do you even realize that everything you're saying just sounds like excuses? Marcus fell silent. His mother and Rihanna also lowered their heads in shame. Not giving them another chance to beg, I said firmly, I have no intention of forgiving you. If you truly care about your children, then work overtime and repay your debts. What happened to Eric was your fault. So why should I forgive you? That would make no sense. They couldn't argue back. They stood frozen in the living room of the home Eric once cherished. If you understand, then please leave this house. It means a lot to me, and I have no intention of living here with you. Claire, please forgive us. We were wrong. Claire, please help us. I repeated coldly. If you say one more word, I'll call the police. Hearing that, they panicked. They hurriedly packed their things and took the children, leaving the house. Paul and I stood silently, watching them go. As soon as they were out of sight, we locked the door. We let out a sigh of relief. It was finally over. Afterward, I asked Paul to begin the process of claiming damages. He had everything prepared, and the legal process went smoothly. The three of them were ordered to pay $30,000 in damages for coercing Eric into signing the will while he was in a critical condition. Unable to pay the amount, they tried to negotiate a settlement, but I refused. I will insist on full payment. I will not negotiate. Their lives changed drastically. My mother-in-law had to take care of 6 children alone from morning until night, and Martinez and Rihanna were forced into constant hard labor. They sold their house and moved into a cramped apartment where all 9 of them squeezed into a tiny space. As they continued to make restitution payments, there was no sign that their lives would get easier anytime soon. I severed all ties with them completely. After reorganizing my belongings, I remained in the house and resumed my work at the flower shop. It was a small but cozy store on the corner of town, filled with the scent of carnations, peonies, and lavender. Friends from the shop stopped by occasionally, so I rarely ever felt lonely. Every day, I stood in front of Eric's portrait, placed on a wooden shelf by the window, and told him about my day. This is the last promise I made to you. Even if I fall ill and end up in the hospital, I'll never stop talking to you. On the day Eric neared the end of his life, he shared one final wish with me. I love your voice and our conversations more than anything, so I hope you'll keep talking to me every day so your voice can still reach me, even when I'm in heaven. After he passed, I swore I'd keep that promise until the day I, too, left this world to be with him again. And I've kept that promise every single day since.